Hey everyone, Jason here. So excited to have you all on the presentation tonight. We're talking about how to buy an airplane this evening. We're doing it on Facebook so you all can see, you all can hang out with us. And this is, once a quarter we're trying to get out and do more public type webinars, Facebook Live events like this to really share with you all. So just so thankful that you all are taking time out of your Thursday evening to really be with us here. So welcome first off to the MzeroA.com world headquarters. We're on the MzeroA.com hangar set right here. When you see me look out this way, it's because I'm looking at what you guys are seeing. So I can say, hey, Tim, Mike, Brian, Scott, my buddy Joseph, Mike, Derek, Andrew. I can see all you guys over there. I can see how many people are hopping on here. Christian, James. So be sure to say hi to everyone there. So not only can I see this, but also we have some members of the great MzeroA.com team here that are hanging out with us tonight. You can see those guys and gals. The Russ cam. Russ, see, I told you you'd make an appearance over there. World famous Jamie Beckett from AOPA is going to be joining us a little bit later, so you'll be able to hear some of Jamie's wisdom as well that we're going to be sharing with you all this evening. So just very blessed, very thankful to be with you all this evening. The topic of how to buy an airplane. I imagine you all are here because of that very topic. What do I look for? Well, how am I going to secure financing? What about insurance? Can I even afford this endeavor? Those are all the questions we're going to answer tonight. But before we get into that, I know a lot of you have been asking about where I'm going to be this year as far as my seminar speaking schedule. Here it is for you. I'll show it up on your screen real quick for you. I leave actually this week. We're doing seminars London, England at Aero Expo UK, Egglesbach, Germany, Dublin, Ireland, Hawaii, Missouri. You can see all the dates. More specific locations will come as they get closer to these, but we'll certainly be coming back to New York. So Joseph, I'll be watching for that. Doing a big homecoming at the Williston Airport here in Florida. A chance to come see everything we do out here at MzeroA.com. So, of course, we'll still be at Oshkosh. I'll personally be at 2 of the AOPA fly-ins. I'll be at the one in Connecticut, as well as, of course, the Tampa flying. So we'll be able to see those. I won't be at the one in Oklahoma, but the MzeroA.com team will be out there. So we'll be able to check that out. But very excited to have you all on board. Again, how this works, I can see everything you're saying over there. So I can also see when likes and everything else go across the screen. So if you're liking what we're saying, you can press that little like button and make those likes go across that screen and everything else too. I can see Caleb and James and George and Roger and Martin and Ashley. There's my beautiful wife, Ashley, as well. So be sure to say hi to all those guys and gals. Without further ado, let's dive into it. Let's talk now about how to buy an airplane. What we're going to cover tonight is the following. We're going to share and talk about which airplane is right for you. I will then share with you where to look and really what we're going to look for. Most importantly, I'm going to share with you what to absolutely run away from. And then I'll share how to secure financing, insurance, and we're going to talk about doing a title search. So all of that will be there for you as well to chat about. A little bit about myself, over 8,000 hours of flight instruction, #1 online ground school creator, author of 8 aviation titles, my beautiful daughter, Ella, and our brand new 1-month-old just a few days ago, little Gavin as well. So very excited about that. You saw my beautiful wife Ashley was leaving some comments in there too, talking about the Good Pilot Tour. I can see some of those comments in there as well. AOPA Outstanding Flight Instructor now 3 years in a row. So very thankful for that, and that's actually done by you all through a voting process. So just so thankful for those votes, for you all making that happen. Let's get started. I teach so much through stories. And I believe that if you've been a ground school member of ours for any amount of time, you've heard me say that sometimes what happens in a book and what happens in the real world are two totally different things. So I'm here to teach with you, and Jamie's going to talk to you about what happens in the real world when it comes to purchasing an aircraft. And my story started out very young when I was getting into aviation. I was 18 years old, and I was a flight instructor. I knew I didn't really want to go the airline route. I really love this teaching thing, and I was trying to find a way to make it work. I had taught a gentleman to fly this very airplane you're seeing right here, November 512 Romeo. His name is Jim Roach. Jim and I are still friends to this day. He's lived up in the Jacksonville, southern Georgia area. And he ended up selling the airplane locally. He was asking $18,999. As an 18-year-old kid, I didn't have $18,999, so I had just finished. I read this big book on negotiating, and it said, well, you have to go in there and you have to lowball them, and that's how we start the negotiation process. So I went in there, and I gave him my offer, and I offered him $15,000. Well, needless to say, it's a miracle Jim and I are still friends, because he actually never even returned my phone call when I offered him $15,000 for 512 Romeo. Months went by, I was still flight instructing, really kind of saving up my money, and eBay sent an email out saying that they had just announced aircraft for eBay Motors. I thought, well, that's really interesting. So, curious, I clicked on the link, and I went to eBay Motors, the aircraft category. There were 2 aircraft on there. One of them was November 512 Romeo. And I remember seeing that and going, this is interesting. It's a 7-day auction. It's no reserve. The price right now is less than the $15,000 I offered them, and I have an advantage because I know the airplane. What other person can move on an airplane in 7 days, get a pre-buy done, get all this stuff done to secure this airplane? I was the only bidder on that aircraft. The aircraft had no reserve on the eBay listing. I ended up purchasing the aircraft for less than the $15,000 I had originally offered him. I told you it's a miracle Jim and I are still friends to this day. I went to check out eBay just a little bit ago. Now there are 129 listings on eBay right now. Good looking aircraft too. How about a Duke, a Bonanza, an R-44? Good aircraft are on there. And again, you think, who would ever think to look on eBay for an airplane? But there can be advantages to this, especially through the bidding process, and we're going to really talk about that and share it. Let's start with first what I believe is most important, and that is choosing the right aircraft. How do you choose an aircraft that's right for you and right for your mission? See, you have to first define your mission. And then you buy an aircraft that checks 80% of those boxes. You may say to me, gosh, Jason, I really want to fly the Bahamas. So I'm thinking a Bonanza, a Mooney, or something like that. I say, that's great. How often are you going to go to the Bahamas? Well, I'm going to go maybe once or twice a year. Okay, what are you going to do with the airplane the other times? Well, it's probably just bumming around getting the $100 hamburger or whatever it may be. See, you don't want to go out and buy the Bonanza for the flight you're only going to do once or twice a year when you can get away with, say, a 182, even a 172 for your primary thing. And then, yeah, it's not the best plane for going to the Bahamas, but it still gets the job done. Buy the aircraft that's right for 80% of your missions, but you have to define that. So ask yourself, what is your mission going to be with this? I want to go visit the grandkids in Tennessee. Well, you're going to, if you're going to be doing that once a month, you need an aircraft that checks those boxes. Some points to remember with this now. Just because it has 4 seats doesn't mean it's a 4-seater airplane. I cannot stress this enough. That I see individuals out there who go, oh, well, it's a 172, Jason, it's got 4 seats. Well, just because it has 4 seats doesn't make it a 4-seater airplane. Anybody here, and you can just type in me if this is you in the chat so I can see that. Anybody here ever flown a Cherokee 140? And if you've flown a Cherokee 140 before, do you think you could get 4 adults in that airplane? You would probably be sitting there wondering, how can I get, myself, my wife, and our 2-year-old in that back seat? Because the back seat of a Cherokee 140, with me at 6'4" sitting in there, you don't have any leg room in that back seat. I see Chris and John and Jason. Yeah, absolutely Seth. A bunch of you know exactly what. There's my buddy Janessa. Absolutely know what I'm talking about. Just because it has 4 seats doesn't make it a true 4-seater aircraft. Another point to remember here is this. these performance numbers, and we've all done this before. You go on Google, you type in Cessna 172P model specs, right? And it comes up with all these different sites that give you all these different numbers. But you're forgetting that when those numbers were created, those performance numbers, they were based on a new aircraft that didn't have any dents in it, that the prop was perfect. It didn't look like this kind of old bent up prop sitting over here now, does it? The paint was perfect. The engine was brand new. The test pilot was probably 150 pounds. It was on a standard day. Everything was perfect when they tested that aircraft. And then you come along 30 years later and buy that aircraft that the prop hasn't been overhauled when it should have been. The engine's been overhauled 4 times and it's still got 1,800 hours on it now. It's coming close to the others. It's got some hail damage over on this wing here, and you're expecting the same range, the same fuel burn, the same speed out of that aircraft when it's no longer the same aircraft anymore. So when you're basing those numbers, and know too that the marketing department works very hard to make those numbers very advantageous. So just maybe take 10% towards the unfavorable side of all those numbers just to be safe. Really, the secret is to do your research and fly as many aircraft as possible. Be that airport bum that says, I want to fly 172 and I want to fly an Archer. I hear this high-wing, low-wing debate, and people, plead their case. I want to experience it for myself. I want to fly a 182. I want to fly a 182 RG. Get your hands on as many aircraft as possible. That's what we're really after, because how can you know what works for you? And then, by the way, too, I imagine you're not buying this airplane to go fly around all by yourself. You're probably buying this airplane to take your friend, your spouse, significant other, whatever it may be. It might be a good idea to get them up in the airplane and make sure that they're comfortable in it as well. Just something else to ponder and think about it. Where are some places we can look for aircraft? Screenshot this if you want to remember it here. Controller, controller.com, Trade a Plane, ASO, Aircraft Shopper Online, Barnstormers is great. eBay, like I said, your local FBO has some sort of corkboard where they're putting everything up. I've seen airplanes on Craigslist before. There are plenty of places to find aircraft for sale, and if you're selling one, to list your aircraft now as well. So these are the points to ponder here. Now I want to share, now we know, where to look and we're picking an aircraft for mission. I want to share with you what's most important to me, which is what to look for now. I have what I call 5 must-haves and really 2 nice-to-haves. Let's get started here. Let's get started with the must-haves now first. Must-have number 1 for me, a low engine time. Less than 50% of TBO. TBO is time before overhaul. I'm going to go over all acronyms here in just a bit. What is TBO for that engine? Well, for some Lycoming engines, it's 2,000 hours. For my Continental 0200, it's 1,800 hours. Does the engine have to be overhauled at that time? No. It could go beyond that. It could also fall short of that. That's just the manufacturer's recommended time. There's no, in our private aviation sector, you just own this aircraft privately, there's no rule that says, Jason, you have to overhaul at this point. Your mechanic will tell you how that engine is doing in its life cycle. Is it going to make it beyond TBO? Is it going to fall short of TBO? So that's something important to know and realize. And then a popular question you have to add to your list of things to ask is, when was it overhauled? Very good friend of mine, local guy here in town, bought a 182 out in Missouri, went out with him to pick it up. Great airplane. Had 600 hours on the engine. It was overhauled in 1986. So you're thinking, wow, it's got 600 hours on it, but do the math on when it last flew. It was overhauled in 86. How often had that aircraft flown if you do the division, right? That aircraft was not flying enough. Now, was it? So sure enough, we flew it home. He flew it for a bit, came down to its first annual inspection. One of the cylinders came back at a 40. Did some more research, found some more metal in the engine. Turns out it needed to be overhauled. The question is, how could an engine with only 600 hours on it need to be overhauled? And it sat. You don't want to buy an aircraft that is a ramp queen or a hangar queen. You want an aircraft that flies. Look for an engine, an aircraft with at least half of its useful life recommended by the manufacturer left that's been flying regularly. That's what we really want here. All right, must-have number 2. Now, I'm sorry, let me go over these acronyms here real quick with you first. You're going to see a lot of these when you're shopping here. If there were ever a slide to take a screenshot of or get your phone out and take a picture of it, it's this one right here. What do all these mean? SMOH, since major overhaul, sometimes expressed as with a T in front of it, just meaning time since major overhaul. These two essentially mean the same thing, just expressed differently. How many hours on that engine? These are TAC hours on this engine since it's been overhauled. Third one, since factory remanufacture. You actually took that engine off. We're trying to do this with the 150 and send it back to Continental to get a factory remanufactured engine. It's still an overhaul. It's just, was it done by your local A&P or your local IA mechanic? Since major overhaul, a field overhaul they call it. Or was it done by the actual factory, getting factory new parts and everything else? You know, you're going to pay a premium to have it done at the factory. How about STOH, since top overhaul? There's a top and a bottom of the engine. To make it simple, we have our cylinders at the top, our crankcase at the bottom. A complete overhaul does all of that. A top overhaul just does our cylinders. My Cessna 150 had a top overhaul when I bought it. So it had about half of its engine life left, and it had a top overhaul a few hours before I purchased it, and it helped extend the life of that engine well beyond TBO in that case, which is impressive for a Continental Low 200. If you know anything about aircraft engines, they normally don't go over TBO here. TTAF, total time airframe. How much time, again, we're talking TAC time, is on the actual airframe? Since it left the factory, every TAC hour that accrues goes towards the total time on the airframe. Total time since new, self-explanatory, and then like we said, TBO, time before overhaul. Screenshot that, write that down. Very, very valuable slide there. All right, let's talk must-have number 2. We just talked about total time airframe. I prefer low total time airframe, or of course total time since new. When I say low, I'm looking for less than 5,000. Now, I will make an exception, and it's ironic on the slide I'm using 7159 Quebec, now 23 Mike Zulu. You've seen some images of it back and forth. I'll show you more here in a bit, because 9 Quebec, 7159 Quebec, or 23 Mike Zulu has about 8,000 hours on the airframe. You say, Jason, why would you buy an airplane that exceeds your limitation you just have here? It's because the type of time that's on it. I don't want an aircraft that has above 5,000 hours that's been a trainer its whole life. Because let me ask you this. When you were learning to fly, how did you treat that airplane? You had some hard landings. You just had some touch and goes. You were stalling it. You were spinning it. You were doing everything to it, right? You just beat the snot out of that airplane. And now we're going to pass that on to somebody else when we sell it, right? Whereas 7159 Quebec was a traffic airplane. That's how I got so much flight time. I did most of the traffic in it 4 hours a day, every day. And literally it was flying just the beltway around Jacksonville, Florida, and we would report traffic accidents to a local radio station. And that's what we would do. So it's higher airframe time, but it would fly for 2 hours of the day, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening with one landing. Yeah, you built the airframe time that way, but that's how it was done. A pipeline aircraft is the same way. They fly, they look at the pipelines, and they have one landing. I can accept higher total time airframe than I could one that's a trainer. It makes it much more difficult here. Must have number 3, modern avionics for my mission. Avionics are expensive. Do you see where I'm getting with this theme here, though? An engine is expensive. Even a Garmin 430, have you shopped a 650 or 750 yet? They are expensive to install here. If you can find an aircraft that already has the avionics you want or you can get by with, again, for your mission, you'll be okay. Do you want to do hard IFR in it? Are you okay with basic? Can you get away with just a Garmin 430? How much longer do you think Garmin's going to keep supporting the 430s for? These are the points you have to ponder. But I can tell you, we inquired about installing 2 G5s. We're still going to do it, 2 G5s and a 750 in 2.3 Mike Zulu. And I assure you, the avionics cost more than the acquisition cost of the aircraft. And unfortunately, it's tough to get that money back out of it. You can spend 35 grand in avionics, but you're not going to get that same 35 grand back out of it when you sell it. Avionics depreciate so quickly. So find an aircraft that has the avionics you want. Don't think it's as easy as, oh, I'm going to get a 430, because you also need the indicator. You also need the antenna. You also need to pay the avionics tech to install it. It's an expensive endeavor. Buying the 430 for 8 grand on eBay is half the battle. It's another 4 or 5 grand to get everything done out the door after that. These are the points to ponder. What is your mission, and what would you say is the minimum standard in avionics for that mission? Set that and start shopping with that in mind. Must have number 4, no damage history. I prefer to have an aircraft without damage history. There's only one way that I know of that can devalue an aircraft faster, it's must-have number 5 that's coming up, than damage history. It hurts the value of the aircraft. Now, if you look at it and say, you know, Jason, I know the repairs that did it, I know the mechanic, or it happened way back in the 70s, it was so long ago, I'm okay with that. Maybe. If you're okay with it, that's fine. But what's the extent of the damage history? Did they hit a wing and replace a wing spar? That's pretty serious. Or did they just have a gear up landing and didn't hit the prop or anything like that and just replace some belly skins? I can accept that. You know, it all depends on the extent of this damage history. Jamie and I were talking earlier that he had a 172 that in the logbooks, it didn't say anything about damage history or anything like that, but he went and tracked down an NTSB report that involved that aircraft, but nothing was reflected in the logbooks. So these are the things you need to look for. We're going to talk about getting a report on your aircraft towards the end as well. So that's what we're going to talk about here in just a bit. Let's do must-have number 5 now. Must-have number 5 for me is complete logbooks. If you've ever watched Airplane Repo, what do Kevin Lacey, Mike Kennedy, what do they always go back for? They need to get the airplane, but they always go back for the logbooks, don't they? The logbooks are the entire value of that aircraft. If you look, I mean, it is so hard to sell an airplane without logbooks. It's so hard to sell an airplane without complete logbooks as well. Logbooks are the history of that airplane. Every engine overhaul, every oil change, everything that's been done, it's a complete, history report on everything that's happened in that airplane. You should be obtaining these logbooks when you're interested in looking at an airplane, having your mechanic go through them, asking the right questions. I want an airplane with complete logbooks. There's only one time I'd make an exception to this. Obviously, if you're looking for a historic aircraft, you want to buy a Piper Cub or some old Warbird, it's probably not going to have complete logbooks. You can accept that fact. And it's from the 40s or the 30s. It's probably not going to have it. It'd be amazing if it did, but not likely. The other exception would be is if you buy this airplane, knowing it doesn't have complete logbooks, and you say, I'm just going to keep it in my family, I'm going to pass this down to my kids one day, whatever it may be. Because not having complete logbooks can actually get you a great deal on an airplane if you make a big deal about it. You know, I've got cash, I really want to buy your Cessna 172, but you're missing the entire engine log from, 1980 to 1982. I just don't even know what happened to this aircraft. I know you're asking 35, but because it's missing logbooks, I'll give you 28. And hit them with that. And that's why you're giving them a low offer, because it doesn't have the logbooks. And if you're fine with that, and you're going to keep the airplane, because someone's going to do the same thing to you down the road if you go to sell it. You understand? You're not going to be able to recreate those logs in any way. So if you're okay with that, you could certainly do it and keep it in the family. It's one way to get a good deal on an aircraft as well. So again, to recap, my 5 must-haves. low engine time, low total time airframe, modern avionics, no damage history, complete logbook. Screenshot this, write this down. I'll leave it up there for just another second for you to take action on that. I promise you, you nail these things down, it's going to save you time and money in the long run here. I'm going to move forward here now. Let's keep going here. Two nice to have items now. They are new paint, new interior. They're just nice to have. I did this webinar, similar style, a few years ago now, and I used the phrase, I like buying ugly airplanes. If the aircraft has, 300 hours on the engine and is still Cessna 1970 Green Bay Packer, green and yellow and kind of corroded, and the interior still the old kind of paisley fabric, I am A-okay with that because it's got a 430 in it and it's only got 300 hours on that engine. Paint and interior is cheap. Let me give you an example here. What you're seeing here, before and after. 59 Quebec when I bought it. Later I changed the tail number, became 23 Mike Zulu. New paint, new interior. Would you like, I'll give somebody, we'll give away an MzeroA.com t-shirt, whoever can get closest. We didn't do real leather, it's faux leather inside, you can't see the inside of the picture. New paint, new interior, what do you think we actually paid? Roughly, let's see if somebody can get close here. I'll have Stacy send you an MzeroA.com t-shirt in the morning here. I'm waiting for some here. Greg, Chris Marshall, nailed it. Spot on. $8,000 is what we paid, give or take. It may, 8.1 is what it really ended up being for new paint, new interior, and then do yourself a favor, if you're an AOPA member, you get a free service called VREF to value that airplane. What do you think when you get to check that new paint, that new interior box does? Well, new paint gives you about a $5,000 boost. New interior gives you about a $3,500 boost there. So we ended up making money on that deal. But it wasn't a paint over. It was a strip down to nothing. It was to paint it and doing the interior. New headliner, new side panels, new seats, carpet, everything else done. Told you. I like buying ugly airplanes. If I can find an ugly airplane that scares most people away because it looks nasty because of the interior and everything else, I'll buy it because I know it's cheap. By the way, Chris Marshall, send Stacy an email, STACEY at MzeroA.com. She's on here as well. And tell her your shipping address, t-shirt size, and she'll get you a t-shirt sent out to you in the morning. Good, excellent guess on that. But a little before and after for you. Let's talk a little bit about now what to run away from, and then I'll have my good friend Jamie Beckett come up here in just a bit. Here's what to run away from. I like this picture. This is a screenshot from us doing spins. What to run away from here. Aircraft that have sat. I don't want an aircraft that's flown less than 30 hours a year. It's going to be a maintenance headache for you. You want an aircraft that flies. You ever owned a boat? It's the exact same thing. You want a boat that operates, on a regular basis. It just has to be done. I don't want an aircraft that's set. I don't want an aircraft, second bullet point here, that's been a lifetime trainer. How did you treat an airplane back in your early flight training days? You beat the snot out of it, right? You had a landing so hard once you probably blew a tire. You were rough on the controls, everything else. I don't mind an aircraft that's been a trainer in a past life because it's hard to find a GA aircraft that didn't have some training at one point or another. But I don't want an aircraft that's been a lifetime trainer. Incomplete logbooks. I try to run away from incomplete logbooks. I try to also run away from damage history. These are two things I don't want to mess around with. One last point here that I'm going to ask my good friend Jamie Beckett to come on here. So important. Have an unbiased A&P mechanic perform the pre-buy inspection. A quick story. I was looking on eBay again, this had to be 6-7 years ago now, to buy another Mooney. It was a G model. It was based out in Mississippi. And again, eBay can be tricky because if it's an auction, you need to move relatively quickly. You can get a good deal, but you want to assess the airplane as soon as possible. So we were going through, and I had a mechanic come out. And I said, listen, I called him. He was local to the area. I said, here's this airplane. It's based at this airport. Here's the guy's number. Can you coordinate with him and go do this pre-buy for me? And he did it, and he called me up, and he said, Mr. Jason, I'm looking at the ad on eBay. And I'm looking at the airplane here right now, and I'm just not seeing what he's saying here. He's calling the paint's an 8 out of 10, and the guy's going, he'd be lucky if it's a 3 out of 10 at this point. And the ad was all marketing and nothing to back it up. And I remember thinking, like, I paid $500 for this pre-buy. I'm thinking, how could I just pay $500 for a pre-buy? I was a young kid at the time, could barely spend $500 on a pre-buy, and I'm just giving it to this guy, I'm not even buying the airplane. But I'm so thankful I didn't. It's cheap insurance when you look at it that way, because now I'm thinking I didn't end up buying that airplane and having just all the maintenance headaches and all the money it would have costed me from there. Have an unbiased mechanic. You don't want the mechanic who's been doing the annual inspections for the last 5 years to do the pre-buy, because of course his or her work is the best. They're not going to find anything wrong with that airplane because they've been doing the annuals. They'd be just telling on themselves, right? You want an unbiased mechanic to come in there and do that. So on that note, too, of saving money and venturing into it, I've asked my good friend Jamie. Jamie, come on over here to make his big appearance. I'm glad you're here, Jamie.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you. And Jamie is in charge. I mean,
not in charge.
Can I call you world famous at least?
Yeah, okay. Let's go with that.
Not in charge, right? But really, I mean, the You Can Fly program with AOPA, and talk to me about what you're doing with flying clubs. Talk to the person out there who's saying, Jason, everything you're saying, great, but I don't know if I can afford to do this on my own. What about a flying club? What about a partnership?
That's how I got into a flying club, to tell you the truth, because I had this exact problem, and I figured I'm not the only guy to have this. I've got a family, I've got kids, I've got a mortgage. I can't justify buying an airplane, but I can justify getting involved with a group that buys an airplane. Now, that could be a partnership or a club. The difference being a partnership is just a financial commitment. You and me and the whole MzeroA crew might form a partnership to buy an airplane. We may never talk to each other. Right. We just put our cards on file and we all share the expenses, and that's okay. In a club environment, and this is my personal favorite, I belong to a club, Central Florida Flying Club, and I see a bunch of you on here. Mm-hmm. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
It's great because, you have a social organization, you have a social network, and one of the things that's important, I think, in aviation is that we recognize you and I have different experience.
Yeah.
We both have a lot of time, we're CFIs and all, but we have different experiences and we learn from each other. Mm-hmm. And we have great situations in a club where, because we can gather together and share the expenses and afford that airplane, we can get commercial pilots and corporate pilots and high-time recreational pilots and student pilots all in the same room. Yes. And they all benefit from each other, because I'll tell you, and I'm sure you know this, that guy who flies left seat in the 747 transatlantic may not know how to get a 172 out of a hangar and off the ground at a non-towered airport, and that 17-year-old student's good at it because she does it all the time.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that we haven't talked about, because we're talking about buying airplanes, there's an interesting component you can do with a club. You can lease an airplane, which does allow you to get access to the airplane, and it's an exclusive lease. It's your club's airplane. You essentially have ownership. But instead of buying it, you're just paying a portion of the cost of it, maintaining that, housing it, and everything. It's a great way to get access to an airplane, and it really can lower the costs down and spread out your social network enough. This really makes it worthwhile.
Sure. What is... I mean, you do this all the time with AOPA.
Because I can't get a real job,
exactly,
so I just mess around in general aviation.
I get it. You and me both. I mean, we're unemployable, right?
Absolutely.
What is that next step, though? I mean, do they have to have the big money guy that comes in and says, I'll put the airplane up and you guys can be my partners? That's one way.
Sometimes, yeah. That's the great thing. If it's you're looking for an airplane or I'm looking for an airplane, either we need a big checkbook balance or a good relationship with a bank or AOPA Finance or somebody like that. If we're in a club, we've got a bunch of options. It could be one of us buys an airplane and leases it to the club.
Sure.
It could be that 6 of the 10 club members say, we can afford to buy the plane and we'll finance it for the club, and the club can pay it back. Or it might actually be everybody in the club says, 15 people, let's put in $2,000 apiece. Now we've got $30,000. Let's go buy an airplane that fits our budget.
Yeah.
It's really the great thing because it gives you all this latitude, and just like you started off, pick the airplane that fits your mission, pick the budget that fits your wallet, and then go out and find that airplane, because we do have a tremendous advantage right now. There's thousands and thousands of airframes out there that have been around for a long time. They're tested, and like your 172, you can completely redo it. I did that with a 150.
It's fun, isn't it?
It really is, and you end up with the airplane you want.
Yeah.
So it's doable.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I totally get it. So we could have someone necessarily, maybe there's someone on this presentation now that says, you know, I want to buy an airplane, but I don't know if I'll use it enough. That would be the perfect thing for the aircraft's getting used, and they're able to offset some of those costs.
Well, you know, I was working with one flying club. They could not find the airplanes they wanted, and they were worried because they also couldn't find hangar space, as you know, here in Florida.
It's tough.
They tend to be full. And they came up with a great idea. They started going out and marketing to say, we would be willing to lease. Is there anybody who's got an airplane, just like you said? It's not getting used enough. Sure enough, they find 2 airplanes on the field with hangars where the owners are willing to lease them. So all of a sudden, you've got access now to 2 airplanes, not 1, at an affordable cost with hangars. So sometimes it's just get creative and start looking around at your real options, network with people. And we do have those people who, they've owned an airplane for 30 years, 40 years. They really love it, but now they're down to flying 20 hours a year. And I'm paying for the annual, and I'm paying for the hangar, and I'm paying for the insurance. You know, if I let 10 other people use it with me, now I'm just paying a little piece of that, and I still have use of my airplane.
Exactly. I like it. If you want to, I'll put it up on your screen here. If you want to get in touch with Jamie, that's his AOPA email there. That's one to screenshot, one to save for sure. You say, listen, I want to start this flying club thing, but I don't know how to do bylaws or set up this LLC or anything else like that. Like, you're the man to go to.
Well, let me say, it's not just me. The great thing, AOPA has put together this You Can Fly initiative that's just fantastic, and it's really, it's creating results because we're out there helping people make their dreams come true. But it's not just me. There's Kay Sunrum in California. There's Pat Brown in Texas. Norm Eisler's up in New York. Andy Miller's up in the Great Lakes region. We just got a new guy into the home office in Frederick who's just in charge of clubs. So as cuddly as I am, if you're out in another place, there's somebody to help you. So trust me, even if all you got to do is call the AOPA main number and say, can I talk to the ambassador for my area? Somebody will be on the phone or on the email to you pretty quickly, and whatever your questions are, whatever your problem is, we'll help you find a solution.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A few more things I want to share, and then we're going to kind of, Jamie and I are going to stay up here. We're going to take your questions and everything else too. If you need help with aircraft financing, I did a great series on financing aircraft. I mean, it'd take another hour just to get into all that. It's aircraftbanking.com. It's up on your screen there too. It's a 5-part video series. We go through with a good friend of mine, Dave Mann. We talk about what credit scores you need. We get into what he's going to want to see tax return wise, how much down, how long, what kind of terms are we typically seeing. We cover all that. Aircraftbanking.com. You can check that out there and kind of see that video series. I don't want to get all into that, but you have that there as well. So a few other resources. Again, this is your thing to screenshot right here if you want to say it. Jamie's email, aircraftbanking.com. All my aircraft are insured through AOPA. But Jamie and I, we're not getting any kickbacks for mentioning this stuff.
I use them as well.
Yeah, exactly. This is...
Because I'm lazy. It's easy. One phone number, I get a bunch of quotes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So AOPA insurance we use. Good friend of mine, Well-Built Doors. He always says, just, you know, you don't have a hangar till you have a door. And,
darn right.
And the hardest thing in Florida right now is finding those hangars.
Oh, yeah.
So name is Mark, very, very good guy. Local to us as well, wellbuiltdoors.com if you want to learn more and say, listen, okay, I've got this plane now. Where am I going to keep it? Where am I going to store it? Well, Mark's the guy to consult and talk to about that. Very good personal friend of mine. And then, two, a recent new friend of ours, you've used the service, Plane Facts Report. They sent us one over. And it's a title search, it's a lien search, it's a NTSB report.
Well, and that's worth it because, as I mentioned, when I bought my Cub, it's a 1940 Cub, and there was a lien on there from decades ago.
That's crazy.
And it really is worth, because that can affect the purchase price of an airplane. If you find out, oh, I really like this, it's great, but oh, there's a lien for $20,000 from 30 years ago.
Yeah, so
that might affect my offer.
So get all of that done. Plainfactsreport.com for that. John, can we put that up there one more time? Screenshot this, write this down, whatever it takes. That is there for you all, and I'll post this. Maybe some of the guys can post this in the chat if someone's looking for something directly as well, so they have it here. The smartest thing you can do as we wrap this thing up here is earn your instrument rating or pursue another certificate. Lower those insurance costs. You see it all the time with flying clubs. I imagine you have the super experienced guys and you have the newcomer that comes in. What does that do to insurance?
Well, it can also be a lifelong process. You know, in my club, and I'm very proud of this, I didn't do this, the club president did it. We have a wings safety seminar every month.
Yes.
And if you make education part of the program, it's not just you, it's everybody in it. And we all start sharing information because you know from doing presentations. Yeah. It doesn't matter what the topic you bring up. If you've got 40 people in the room, 3 people have a story to share that's really pertinent, and we learn from it, and we're safer because of it.
Absolutely. So if that's something you want to do, I just want to remind you, not a sales pitch by any means, but groundschoolacademy.com. Don't forget, we have a complete private instrument commercial just about CFI. We're in the process of wrapping that up. FOI is done. We just need to get a few of the flying videos done, and we're wrapping that up as well. Online ground school. It's knowledge test prep, check ride prep. I always say it's real world practicality, like how I started this presentation saying what happens in the book, what happens in the real world. 2 totally different things sometimes. We teach through those stories so you have it. We do weekly webinars like this. So if you decide, man, I really like this, interacting with Jason and the MzeroA.com team, we do this once a week. So it's cool stuff. And we have the crazy guarantee, pass your check ride or we'll pay for it. So you can check that out as well. And with that, let's move to some questions now. Matt's kind of going to pick and pull some questions for us as well. First question I see, David H. Hey, David. David's asking, how many hours do you like to see an airplane flown per year? Jamie, what about you as a avid aircraft owner and in a club and everything else?
You know, for me, it's not per year, it's per month, because I don't want it to sit there for 6 months and do nothing and then fly 100 hours in the next 6 months.
Good point.
So I'd rather see routine usage throughout the year, whatever that value is. I'd rather have that airplane flown for an hour a week throughout the year and only get 52 hours than have it fly 100 in the last 3 months and it sits the rest of the time.
No, I tell you, like we use the analogy of a boat, the aircraft just has to run. It has to fly. I mean, that's why if you don't believe you're going to be able to fly it enough, this is the guy to talk to and think, let's go the club route. Let's just do, you can do a club with 3, 4 people. It doesn't have to be a big, fancy thing. It can be small. It can be 3 or 4 of your friends.
Clubs, in Florida where I work, I know clubs that have 4 people. I know clubs with 150 people. Whatever works for you, you can make that happen. And one person, just you, saying, I want to have a club, but I really am not quite sure how to do it. People like me and my peers, we have the resources and we can point you in the right direction. But if just you're there and want to do it, you can do it. There are a lot of clubs that started with one person with an idea.
Next question's right up your alley. Michael S. Do clubs have instructors to teach you?
They can, but they don't have to. And here's a little weird thing. For instance, in the club I belong to, and I refer to it a lot because it's my personal experience.
I get it.
We have 3 flight instructors in the club, but say you join the club and you say, you know what? I really want my buddy to teach me because I'm going to go after a rating and they're the ones.
Sure.
As long as your buddy checks out with our instructors and gets signed off so that they're an approved instructor, even though they're not a member of the club, absolutely. It's all about getting people in, getting them safe, and really appealing to their comfort level. So you can use a club instructor, you can use one from the local flight school, or you can use one that's just some guy you know who's a really good instructor. Whatever works, do it.
There's a reason clubs are part of the You Can Fly initiative. They want everyone flying.
Absolutely.
I get it. Let's see.
I love this.
Yes, absolutely. Milena M. asked, does it make sense to buy an airplane as a student pilot and do your training in it?
I just talked to a woman today about this. She wants to become a career pilot. Somebody told me this when I started. I thought they were crazy. I was wrong. They were right.
Yes.
I've actually advised my own daughter about this. If you want to be a career pilot, maybe the cheapest, easiest, most comfortable way to do it, Go out and find a low-cost trainer to buy. Get your ticket in that and just start building time, getting comfort. Go out and doing a cross-country every couple days.
Yes.
It really does lower your cost. And the great thing is if you spent $20,000 on that plane and you fly it for a year and you get a couple hundred hours, you can probably get $20,000 selling it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'll give you my opinion's very similar with a different twist to it. What I typically like to see people do is, let's do our private. We can rent for private because I want you to, first off, see what you like.
Sure.
You know, fly some different planes and everything else. And then what I love people to do is buy an airplane and do their instrument in it. Because what are you going to be doing all your instrument flying in is in that same airplane. So I trained in it. I did it. And the same is true, too. I just worry, back to that point of an airplane for your mission. But yeah, they're going to buy that Cessna 150, but then they're going to be selling it again for instrument time because it's probably not up to...
Well, and you know, you were talking earlier about what airplanes cost, and I think people get intimidated. I've owned 6 airplanes. The least expensive flyable airplane I ever bought was $11,000.
I like how you say flyable.
Well, I've got some projects. Okay. But it was $11,000, and I put work into it, but that plane was just fine. You could have flown it away. So this really can be a lot more affordable than you think. And for a student pilot, I agree with you. Whichever way you go, it's a great way to cut your cost. And you're going to learn a lot when you own an airplane because suddenly you're responsible for getting maintenance done.
Absolutely. When you're doing the knowledge test and it says, is it the owner, operator, or pilot command that's responsible for this? You're thinking, it doesn't matter because I have all of those things, right?
Absolutely.
If only the knowledge test knew that, right? Let's see what Seth M. has to say. What can I do to get into aviation and start learning? Let me kick this one off. First off, Seth, if you don't have a copy of our book, The Private Pilot Blueprint, it's everything I wish someone would have told me before I started my flight train, how to save time and money in your flight train. Talks about flying clubs in here as well. So something else to think about. It's a free book. You just pay $6 shipping. I ship it to you. But if I was talking to Seth right here like we are, I mean, it's...
There's a lot of people who started their aviation career with a broom in their hand sweeping out the hangar.
You're an airport bum.
It gets you in. Absolutely. It gets you in. You start learning how the culture works. You start learning the language. Suddenly somebody says, hey, can you help me with this oil change? Hey, do you want to go on this maintenance flight? And before you know it, you're doing what you dreamed of doing, and it wasn't that hard.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, too. Like, when I go over and look at my career so far as a pilot, I was a traffic pilot. I was a banner tower. Did you know I was a ladies' grocery boy who had her own island in the Bahamas?
Oh, okay.
And she would call on
Second one I know who did that.
She would call on a satellite phone and go to Publix, get me this bottle of wine, this steak, this. We'd buy the groceries and fly it down to her. But that job isn't posted on Monster.com, right?
No, that's word of mouth.
You have to be at the airport to find these kind of gigs.
Yep.
I was an airport bum. I literally lived in a hangar for a month. It's another long story we'll get into. But I literally lived in a hangar for a little while. So you have to be an airport bum sometimes with that.
It's the best way to go. And seriously, I mean, I have a similar story. I've been a flight instructor, I've been a mechanic, I've been a writer, but there's an awful lot of people who are flying airliners, flying corporate gigs, instructing, who started out just helping out around the hangar. And if you show up on a regular basis and help out, all of a sudden opportunities start happening.
Yeah, you're right. Roy T., any tips or thoughts on purchasing experimental?
Actually, I just got my first experimental. I just got an air cam. I'm a huge believer in using the resources that are available on the internet. Certainly EAA. If you're going to do an experimental, there are some different rules. Go with them. And if you can find a users group, like you know, if you're getting a RANS or whatever, find other people who fly that airplane because there's a lot of just little esoteric information you get.
It's huge.
It's worth it. There's nothing wrong with experimental at all. As I say, I own one now, and I'm real happy to have it. But go find some people who have some experience with that.
Absolutely. I haven't owned an experimental. Jamie's the newly minted experimental guy, an air cam, which he needs to put on floats. So everyone remind Jamie to put that on floats, please.
Yeah, please. Bring that up as often as possible.
Michael S., can you do any maintenance yourself on a certified aircraft? Well, yeah, you can.
Actually, sure. It's in Part 43. You can do a lot of preventative maintenance. You can change tires. You can do oil changes. With the supervision of an A&P mechanic, you can do pretty much anything. So, as a matter of fact, AMP, Airframe and Power Plant Mechanics license, you can actually earn that through experience working on your own airplane under the supervision of an AMP or an IA.
Yeah.
So yeah, you absolutely can do it. Just don't go out and do it on your own. Have somebody showing you how to do it the right way, because it will matter.
Yeah, and we're in the process, too, of actually filming an AMP course.
Oh,
that
great.
Test prep. This guy over here, can we flash the Rust cam real quick? We got to get the Rust cam lower third up there. That makes it so much better than once we do that. Oh, now we're all over the place with stuff. But there it is. Whew, the Rust cam. I made that. I mean, that's the best Photoshop work I've ever done. Russ is our AMP mechanic and also in charge of our AMP course. So when you're wondering, hey, Jason, when's that AMP course going to be done? Russell at MzeroA.com, right? That's what you need to email when you ask about that. So, that's the guy. That's the guy we can talk about that. But you're absolutely right. The preventative maintenance stuff you can do and make happen. Cleaning, gapping, spark plugs, your oil changes, all that can be done.
Well, even if you're doing an owner-assisted annual, taking off all those inspection plates, taking the interior out, you can save yourself hundreds of dollars, and you learn a lot about how the airplane works.
You learn so much. Like I've never been that handy. So systems are something I struggled with when it came down to. Remember, we work on my commercial and CFI, and they're like, draw for me, the landing gear system. I'm like, there's a wheel. But when you actually get in there and do it, and you're getting your hands dirty, you learn so much.
And that helps you if you ever have a problem in the air where you talk about book work in real life.
Oh, man.
If you've been in there and you've worked on these systems and you've helped do some work and you have a problem in the air, it makes it much easier for you to figure out, can I fix this or not? Do I need to be distracted by this? Or do I just focus on the rest of my flight and live without that?
Yeah. Here's a great question from Ivan. What is the cost comparison renting versus owning? Just kind of rough numbers he's looking for.
That's a really interesting one. Short term, I'm going to say your example of I want to buy this airplane so I can go to the Bahamas. If I'm only going to do that twice a year, I'd rather rent that airplane.
Yeah.
And I'd own the 172 or something that's more practical to my day-to-day use.
Yeah.
The general rule is if you fly more than 100 hours a year, it's probably cheaper to own. If you fly less, it's probably cheaper to rent. I'm going to go out on my you can fly limb. Either way, it's cheaper to be in a club. Yeah. Because in a club, you might have access to a 150 and a 172 and a 182 because your club population is big enough to support that and you get trained in them, but you're not paying the full boat on all of them.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of leeway. You can really direct yourself and save yourself some money and get some real value out of your tickets.
And there's something to owning or being a part of a club when you get that same airplane every time. How many times do you show up to a big flight school and, oh, you're in this one today, and then you're in this one tomorrow, and you're in that one, and it's different tail numbers, and the tachometer was here, but now it's here. It's so nice to have an airplane that you get familiar with. I love owning the airplane now. I leave my headsets in it. Like, they just stay there.
Well, I'll tell you, in my club, 4 or 5 members own airplanes outside of the club.
Wow.
They belong because they enjoy the camaraderie.
Yeah.
But we all take people flying in them.
Yeah.
So just being in that club exposes you to those, and some really cool classics.
Yeah.
I mean, really neat stuff. So
that's really,
it's worth
really cool. That's awesome. Well, guys, gals, I appreciate you taking time out of your Thursday night. I appreciate Jamie coming all the way.
Thanks for having me here at World Headquarters.
Yeah, I
this is
appreciate
big.
it, man. I appreciate it. Again, Jamie's information, if you need it, let me put it up there just one more time. I'll get to that slide just so you guys can have that here as we wrap this up. His email, all the other links and everything else I mentioned so you have it. You can be an aircraft owner. It's not as far-fetched as you think. People spend more money on their vehicles than
you
some
can
people
spend
do.
more on golf than you do on flying.
100%. You can buy a Cessna 150 for 15 grand. I promise it can be done, right? And I'm not talking a crusty, timed out one that's going to last you, quite a few hundred hours. So these are the things to think about. When you do become an aircraft owner, you have my email, you have Jamie's email. Maybe you want to set up a flying club. Reach out to Jamie. He's the point of contact. But thank you so much just for being such a blessing, not only to myself, this great team here, my beautiful wife, Ashley, our gorgeous daughter, Ella, our new handsome son, Gavin. He's a cool little guy. You got to see him earlier. We're just so thankful for you all and everything we do. Well, we do it for you all to help make you safer, smarter pilots. If there's anything at all we can do this week to help make you a safer, smarter pilot, help you get closer to aircraft ownership, don't hesitate to reach out. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and most importantly, remember, And a good pilot is always learning. Have a great night, guys. See ya.